Okay, welcome back to our continuous conversation about politics and about what's happening in the country. Just trying to analyze, and this weekend, there's quite a bit of conversation going on. I'm going to try and deal with the key issues. But let me first start with what happened last week. We had 3 days of Maandamano. And of course, the obvious things that people are talking about is the chaos in Nairobi, chaos in Kisumu, and then pockets of a few other places. I saw somebody analyze and say we have 290 constituencies, 277 were peaceful, life continued as usual, 13 were not. And sometimes that context is lacking, because if you had watched TV or listened to conversations, it looked like the whole country was going up in smoke. Of course, Nairobi is a big place, so if something goes wrong in Nairobi, it has a lot more effect than just one constituency. But the truth of the matter is that most of the country was actually peaceful. But we still had the 3-day of Maandamano. Now, for me, the things that stand out outside the normal that we discussed, one, we had most probably a couple of million children who didn't go to school for 3 days. In Nairobi, in Kisumu, the schools that had been closed, right? 3 days. And this includes fourth formers, includes standard 8s who are going to be doing an exam, with the children from the 277 constituencies who went to school, right? And I remember mentioning that some time back. We've now reached a point where we are not just having a political competition, we are starting to affect innocent people. Innocent children in school now understand that politics can make you stop going to school, right? The second thing that I noted that requires analysis is that the people who actually called for the Maandamano did not themselves go to the streets. Raila wasn't in the street. I understand he wasn't well. Kalonzo wasn't in the street. I understand there was I don't know what he called it, house arrest. That's according to him. Martha wasn't in the streets, right? Keoni wasn't in the streets. Pio wasn't in the street. The political class that has dictated, except I think Sifuna, who I saw with a sufuria on his head, the general political class actually boycotted the Maandamano. So what happened? So we had people come out to the streets without anybody shepherding them. So it's like I call a demonstration and then I don't show up. So I have called this demonstration for a particular reason and my followers come out, but I'm not there. So who gives direction of what we're going to do now, where we are going? None. And that's the chaos. And you remember me saying some time back that I actually went to court to try and ask for a structure of how demonstrations should be done. Because now, with the chaos that happened for the 3 days, Raila can say he is not to be held accountable because he was not there. True, he wasn't there. Neither was Kalonzo, neither was Martha, neither were the principals of this. I didn't even see Mwangi Wa Iria anywhere. So what does that tell us? So you call for something that is going to be disruptive, and then you step away from it, so that when it goes disruptive, you cannot be held accountable. We are setting up innocent people, because the people who come to the street come there waiting for you to tell them, let's now go here. They show up and they're not there. So what is happening? Who is actually directing that Maandamano? At local level, you'll find is some random political operative or a random criminal operative who has been given the responsibility of making people go in a certain direction, right? The confrontations with police. What was that about? So when people are being asked to move, the person who can tell them, no, let's not go this way, is a leader who called them. He's not there. So this public meets with the police, and they'll get into violent confrontation. The people who called for these demonstrations actually just ran away from accountability of the results of that Maandamano. And that's why you keep hearing me saying that, as far as I'm concerned, that whole Maandamano should never have happened. This is just disruption. This is economic sabotage, in my opinion. Because you should ask yourself, so what was the intended purpose of the Wednesday Maandamano, Thursday Maandamano, Friday Maandamano, if even the owners of the Maandamano themselves did not show up? What were they trying to achieve? So we have young people who have been arrested. I hear there were 300. We have policemen and Kenyans. We have, both of them are Kenyans, policemen and the civilians who are on the streets. So we have policemen and civilians who were injured in the middle of chaos called by politicians who were not on site. And you can now tell the confusion that we are putting our country into. And it brings me to a point we have. So we have Raila on this side telling us, let's go to demonstrations. Things are going to be tough. There's going to be chaos. There's going to be disruption. But at the end of it, we will win. And living standards will come down. Then we have Ruto on this other side who's telling us, let's be patient. Let's tighten our belts. Let's work hard. At the end of the tunnel, our livelihoods, our living standards will come down, our living costs will come down. So both groups are telling us nothing is going to happen right now. Raila has no quick fix to our current situation. He's pushing for a negotiation, political or otherwise, to bring the cost of living down. So it's not going to happen right now. Ruto is pushing and saying, I have a plan that is going to bring the living standard down. One person wants to use a violent confrontation. One person wants to use negotiation. Which one would you follow? Especially if you're not a politician. If you're just interested in running your business and just pushing and making sure you wake up tomorrow and you go through tomorrow and you wake up the next day, why would you go to the direction where you're being told to actually get into chaos, to go to tomorrow? Why not go to this one that says, let's chill, let's work hard, we'll get to tomorrow, right? And this is a conversation we need to have within ourselves. We are not going to have a quick fix to our economic problem right now. Raila doesn't have that quick fix solution. Ruto doesn't have a quick fix solution. Ruto is being honest. He's saying, guys, it's going to take time. Raila is telling us, let's go to the streets, we'll fix this. Come on, guys. Kenyans. Hapa, there's going to be need for us to listen. Because we're losing time. We're losing resources. We're losing lives. Right? And we're losing property. In this particular side of violent confrontations. The other side, we are just struggling. But we're keeping on going. Anyway, I hope we will learn something in coming days. But I will continue condemning with in the strongest possible terms politicians calling for Maandamano. Remember, this Maandamano started as a demonstration against elections. That didn't catch. And then because the living standards were complicated, the politicians hijacked the agenda of living standards. And now we've made it the reason we are doing Maandamano. But the origin of this Maandamano was based on deceit. And why do I say it was based on deceit? President Uhuru Kenyatta, on 2 occasions, in public, has admitted that he handed over power to respect the will of the people. He said it during the NDC, Jubilee. I don't know whether you can only call it an NDC. I know it's still a dispute in court. During that particular event, he said very clearly, I handed over power and I respected the will of the people as a Democrat. Recently, a couple of days ago when he had this incident at his son's home, he said it again. I handed over power in respect of the will of the Kenyan people. So President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the chairman of Azimio, is on record saying that Ruto being president is the will of the people. So this argument by Kioni, by Raila, by Martha, by Kalonzo, that Ruto is not in office legitimately comes from where? If the chairman of Azimio says that the will of the people is what led Ruto to be president, why would the people in Azimio continue insisting that Ruto is in office illegitimately? Because that's where we are not making progress. Because if we first all agreed that Ruto is in office legitimately, then we give him the responsibility of working to solve the problems we have because he's the one in charge. But for as long as we do not accept, or there's a fraction of people that refuses to accept he's in office, they treat him as if he's not the president. And we keep having these fights. Of course, I can't finish this particular conversation without just mentioning briefly about this issue that happened with Uhuru Kenyatta and his son recently at his son's home. I will not go into the details. But part of it is because I suspect we don't know enough, right? We've had Uhuru's position, and he said what he had to say. I keep telling myself that by the time we get there, what exactly is going on beneath that situation that we don't know. But for me, I think the lesson there is that Uhuru failed to do good political transition management. What do we mean? Today, Uhuru doesn't have a single politician in office who is rooting for him. Even the ones who were elected on Jubilee moved, right? If you look at all the transitions, presidential transitions we've had, from the one by his father in 1978, that was not even planned. But his father had created a system that ensured the transition was smooth with no political discomfort, right? And any political discomfort, there were channels of how it was managed. Moi, who left office alive and handed over to somebody who ran against him viciously, except for that moment when her power was being handed over physically, he had 68 members of parliament, or the 65 from Kanu, who became a vanguard for him. And they became the political process that enabled him to transit into retirement well. Kibaki, same thing, as the third president. When he handed over power to a preferred successor and created his own transition management mechanism that ensured he retired in dignity. Uhuru was in office for 10 years. He left office 10 months ago, and we can now tell that there is a gap in the political transition management that he put up, if he did. Because what should be happening right now is that there should be a political vanguard around the former president that midwives a negotiation between him and the current administration. You can tell there isn't. If Uhuru is depending on Raila to negotiate for him, it is not in Raila's interest for there to be a truce between Uhuru and Ruto. So he'll keep poking because he doesn't want there to be a truce. But if Uhuru had a team that was managing his transition politically, by now there would have been a conversation between him and the current administration behind the scenes that would have ensured we don't see the kind of things we're seeing. So this is a lesson for us moving forward. If you don't manage your political transition well, these are the kind of things that go on. Anyway, sisi bado tuko hapa Rware, tunauza chai na mandazi, trying to do our part. I'm very grateful to the people of Nyeri because they have refused to step into the violent confrontation. We're all struggling. Cost of living is high, but we have faith that if we, somebody said it's 10 months. In 10 months, it's very difficult for a government to have put in place the policies that are required to solve the problems we have. So we continue with this faith, right? And I'm glad the Nyeri people have this patience. Let's keep peace, and not just in Nyeri, let's keep peace across the country. We don't have another country. If Kenya burns up, as somebody said, I think it was Sakaja who said, this is the only home we have. We don't even have a servant quarters where we can go and stay as the home gets fixed. If it goes down, we all go down. So at Rware, we're doing our part to keep the country moving. As Goji Wambogo, I continue asking Kenyans, please, let's be peaceful. Let's remember that the country is permanent. Politics is seasonal. Leadership passes, comes and goes. But our country is here for us, for our children, for our children's children. Let's take care of our country. God bless you. God bless Kenya.